When we go into someone's home to support them in improving their lives, it's a very intimate situation.
If you've watched the preceding videos in this series, you now know the difference between healthy and unhealthy housing, and how unhealthy housing conditions can have a direct and potentially negative impact on your family. So now what? What do you do with all this information? Well, if you're a homeowner, you want to make sure that you comply with the 7 principles of healthy housing.
That means keeping your house dry, clean, making sure it's ventilated, that it's contaminant-free, pest-free, safe, and maintained. Whether you rent or own, do your part to keep your home clean and maintained. Make sure the environment is healthy.
At the end of this chapter, there's a list of healthy housing resources with more information.
Each have websites with data and practical information you can use. And over the next several minutes, you're going to hear from several people, experts in communication and environmental health, as well as people who've made it their mission to help others.
For those of you charged with bringing the Healthy Homes messages into homes every day, you're probably aware of some of the challenges.
To put it bluntly, old habits die hard. People can be resistant to change, even if it's for their own good.
If it's a matter of throwing away a moldy possession, that usually works pretty fast. If it's a matter of changing a personal habit, like putting a lid on the pot on the stove when you're boiling water to cut down the moisture in the property, or leaving the shower fan on longer to exhaust the moisture, or tobacco smoking. Those are much harder to change because they're habits people don't think about.
Convincing homeowners to change their personal habits is possible, but should be done in a way that doesn't create communication obstacles.
Communication obstacles are a reality. Some of the roadblocks to effective communication include language barriers. If you don't understand the language, you're not going to be able to convey your message.
Sister Ann Kendrick is one service worker who doesn't let language get in the way. She learned Spanish so she could effectively work with the Hispanic farm workers that she serves.
Well, I think it's important to understand the language of the people that you're working with, that you're trying to serve, that you're trying to help move maybe to better, more decent, and more healthy, housing. And, not only language in terms of foreign language, but people even who speak English, but who speak a different language, because their life experience is different. So they use words differently, even words that are common, common to English speakers.
Not only can language be a barrier to good communication, but cultural misunderstandings are common. Not everyone shares the same values.
People who have never had adequate housing, in one sense, don't know what they're missing, and also don't put as much stock in it as, this is my house, this is my castle, look at me, haven't I arrived? That's sort of an upward climbing, more middle class sort of value.
Minneapolis has a very diverse population, and a lot of them wind up in rental property when they first move here. And they don't understand the system as to their legal rights as to how to make complaints, and they may be frightened of authority and not wanting to make the complaints. They also may not understand when we say clean, like for a lead hazard. Some families have gotten insulted because they don't. We're not calling their house dirty, but cleaning up lead dust is a very specialized type of technique to use to actually get it out of the property.
Cost can be another communication barrier. If there's a perception or reality that correcting the problem is going to be expensive, the message may not be heard.
Folks that are trying to just make ends meet on a day-to-day basis are not necessarily thinking about their health or the health of their home in the long term. They're thinking about how to cope day to day. How am I going to get my next meal? How am I going to pay my rent this month?
If they've invested in making the house that way, like if they've just redone their basement, they don't want to hear that the construction was done improperly and that it's contributing to a health problem.
Perhaps one of the biggest roadblocks is a lack of education. Not everyone understands there's a link between health and housing.
Probably about 80% of people are not aware that they have various types of health and safety hazards in their homes. When we did a survey recently of consumers, we found that between 15 and 19% reported some knowledge of health and safety problems in the home. So the lion's share of families out there are just completely unaware.
If you look at the American Housing Survey, people were asked to rate their home on a 1 to 10 scale. And 8, 9, or 10 was pretty high ratings. That's well above average. Half of the people living in a home that could be condemned, that had severe and moderate problems, rated their home 8, 9, or 10.
Sometimes you have to teach people that haven't been taught before the basics. And you don't do it with a heavy hand. How do you know something's wrong if you haven't been taught differently? If you've lived in an environment that's not conducive to respect and a sense of responsibility.
Communication roadblocks happen all the time, in both the public and private sector. But because Healthy Housing Work centers in and around the home, the message becomes more personal.
When we go into someone's home to support them in improving their lives, it's a very intimate situation. So when we go in, there's a lot of things that we must be aware of. First of all, we have to be aware that there are things about us that are different from one another. There are things about us that are familiar with one another. And we must meet the people on some common ground.
What motivates one person will not necessarily motivate or be meaningful to another person. So the one-on-one is very important.
Meet them where they're at. What are they wanting? What are they feeling? What are they interested in? What don't they understand? Also then meet them not only where they're at, but where they've been in that whole concept of improving themselves.
Making an interpersonal one-on-one connection seems to be the key that unlocks the communication door for positive and permanent change.
One-on-one is a very important relationship to affect change. It's so important because that one person then will impact a whole family unit. And that family unit will go on to impact another group of people, and on it goes.
There are those who work in healthy housing who figured out best practices for communicating their message. Let's see what's worked for them.
We partner with other agencies quite a bit. For example, there is a local food shelf that we have developed an ongoing partnership with that works out great for both of us.
Stephanie Dean and Geraldine Donnelly work at an apartment complex that provides homes for the homeless. They tap a number of resources to help their tenants.
Boy, we have all the food shelves and speed dial. And currently we are still we have a volunteer grant gave us a bus that comes 3 times a month and takes residents to the various food shelves.
Mostly we partnered with Pediatric Home Service, which they're a corporation that just brings medical equipment out to children's patients. And they were going into the homes and they were seeing all these health problems, all the housing problems and conditions that were impacting the children's health.
The partnership between the public sector and the in-home healthcare providers led to a positive change, a solution for families with asthmatic children at no cost.
The basic package that seemed to work best was giving the family a HEPA vacuum, dust covers for the pillows and the mattresses, and a HEPA air cleaner for the child's bedroom. Part of it was targeting to make sure that the child could get a good night's sleep, which helped in their ability to go to school the next day.
These items only cost about $350, but were free to the families through a HUD grant. For Lisa, it was important these items be portable.
We found that our families were real portable. They were a lot of rental families that moved frequently, so we had to have things that they could take with them. So that's why the air cleaner and the vacuum and the dust coverings could go with them. And we found we did follow-ups with the families, and we found that the families valued these items and were taking them with them as they moved.
Another component to effective communication is being familiar with the locale and the locals.
If you're an outsider coming and you want to help and you're good, you're well-intentioned, you have to spend, the first year or so just hanging around. You need to go to whatever community meetings are happening. Go to people's churches. Go to the civic organizations. Find excuses in an informal way to contact people.
Sister Ann Kendrick serves the Hispanic farm worker community in Central Florida.
I went to a lot of the stand-up places that should have known about this community. And I'd say, where are the Spanish-speaking migrant workers? We don't have any. Do you know who knew? It was the produce manager and the stock people that bought food for some of the local food chains. They knew who their population was, and they stocked ethnic items and specific items, for that community.
When I do intake interviews with people, I will always ask where they came from, and a lot of them have grown up in this area.
Another effective communication technique is to reward positive behavior. At the Redeemer's Arms apartments, tenants who keep their units clean are rewarded, and sometimes a small reward has a big impact.
Residents who pass the apartment inspection have their names entered into a drawing to receive a Target gift card.
Catherine Chapman works at a nonprofit agency located at an apartment complex that used to have a tough reputation. New management has changed the environment completely.
What we're looking at now is a caring attitude with a person who encourages them, but she also gently empowers them to be better people.
First place, you have to respect the person that's sitting across from you. And you have to instill in them the importance of self. It all goes back to the basics. Treating people the way they want to be treated, the way they need to be treated, the way they should be treated.
One way to be an effective communicator is to be a keen observer, and then to use those observations to lobby for positive change. For instance, the building manager in this particular complex recognized a need to redesign the kitchen so they'd be cleaner, safer, and easier to maintain for tenants. The redesigned kitchen prototype replaces gas appliances with electric, which don't create carbon monoxide emissions and require less ventilation. In Florida, apartment manager Shirley Hodap's high standards for maintenance have had a trickle-down positive effect.
She's painted these apartments, and they've needed painting for 10 years. When we look at that, and you think, a paint job won't change anything, but a paint job out here has changed people's attitudes. They act differently. And when I say that, I mean, there's a certain pride when people come out here to see you, to see that the apartments they look clean on the outside.
When I first came here, the property was actually riddled with crime and drugs. Drug deals going down on a regular basis. Recently, I received a report from one of the deputies, and from May 15th, 2009 until November the 18th, 2009, there have been received at the Orange County Sheriff's Department 90 calls. And since November 19th until March 30th, 20.
So in less than a year, more than a 75% decrease in police calls.
Perhaps one of the most effective communication tools is simply commitment, believing in and having a passion for helping others.
I care about the property. I also care about the awesome responsibility that the owner has entrusted me with. That it's a big investment, and I don't take it lightly.
It's never the same day twice. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You might learn something brand new, or encounter a situation that is very unusual and interesting, or you make a huge breakthrough and you really make a difference in somebody's life.
Personally, had a passion around what it means to create home, to help someone find home.
For those of you working in the field, most of your communication will be done the old-fashioned way, face-to-face, or should it be face-to-face book? Electronic forms of communication aren't the future, they're now.
So a lot of folks are now using social media to reach their audiences, and we're doing the same. We have a Twitter account, we have a blog that we're starting, we have listservs, we have a newsletter that we send out on a monthly basis. We really focus on our website and trying to make information as practical and as accessible as possible for the families that need them.
In Florida, a problem with imported drywall prompted an internet response by the state's Department of Health.
The Florida Department of Health has put together some comprehensive resources on their website at www.doh.state.fl.us, and you can click on imported drywall. On that site, there's a self-assessment guide that has multiple pictures to help you really understand and diagnose your own problem within your home. And from there, that site can connect you to the Consumer Product Safety Commission's resources on what to do in terms of remediation.
The internet is just one communication tool of many. Here's a review of effective techniques. Effective partnerships. Partner with stakeholders and organizations already in place. Provide low or no-cost solutions to housing problems. Know the area. Know what resources are or aren't around. Use incentives to inspire positive change. Initiate change based on observation. Be observant of what the needs are and find a way to meet them. Believe in the work, because when you do, others will too. Make use of 21st century communication tools. And finally, if possible, take the time to strike up a one-on-one relationship.
You have one-on-one contact, you have one-on-one influence. You can make a difference. Each person makes a difference.
If you like people, if you like people and you want to, and you have some kind, and if you have a passion about transforming the world and making it better, and you feel like you're called, you're really called by God maybe to engage in that kind of way, you look for the ways to do it.
Delivering the Healthy Homes message is important and worthy work. And hopefully some of the preceding success stories will inspire you to develop your own strategies. Good luck, and thanks for watching.